The Party We Came For is the third studio album of singer-songwriter Joe McCorriston. Joe is originally from Morecambe in Lancashire in the northwest of England. I was first turned on to Joe in 2012 when he released his first studio album, Try As You Might. His second full-length LP came out in 2014, named Sick and Sound. And finally we get to this album, his third, The Party We Came For, which was released in December of 2016. Joe is a folk style singer-songwriter, acoustic guitar sort of thing. His first album was more of an acoustic style with piano and more intricate acoustic composition from that. But this time we get a more band style LP from Joe. The album kicks off with distorted guitars, a full band in action. The first track, Alive, I really like the breakdown in the chorus with the lyrics, I just want to be alive. The first iteration of that, where there's no guitars, it's just the bass and the drums, is very sonically pleasing on the ears. There is a very clear pop punk influence in the bridge of this song, especially with the octaved guitars. This first track actually is one of my favourites from this LP. It's got a very clear pop punk influence. It's a potential indie anthem if it were ever to make it out there. The second track, C'est La Vive Part 2. Again, we get more pop punk influence from Joe. The driving distorted guitars. The very clear pop punk melodies. Very similar in style to early Blink-182. Again, very sonically pleasing, very fun. It's not Mozart, it's not Beethoven, it's not massively over composed, but very fun to listen to. The third track, Cardboard, is heavy sometimes. I personally, Joe, like the reference to Two Girls One Cup with the lyric, it went viral like 2 girls 1 cup. There's some more great pop culture references throughout this song. It is often hard to hear the lyrics. The vocals are quite low down in the mix. Again, the production on this thing, the album, the production is worn on its sleeve. You're not going to get Drake styled, overly produced, absolutely polished to the bone production. But one criticism, especially in this track, is that the vocals are quite low down in the mix. I do like the end of this track, the breakdown right at the end, although I wish the minor barred chords on the guitars were heard higher up in the mix. Moving on, we get to Castle Hill, which is the first time we hear Joe in his stripped back form, which is the sort of Joe of old. We hear the harmonica, we've got a very nice melody in this. Great use of storytelling from Joe, bringing very clear visions of Castle Hill, this very real place. This is actually my favourite track on the LP. It reminds me quite a lot of early Bob Dylan. Very clear influence, especially with the harmonica. I've listened to this a few times over just out of pleasure. This is a very, very well written song, and like I say, this is certainly my favourite track on this LP. The next 2 tracks, Stomach Lining and Destiny, for me are low points on this LP. I feel like Joe is going through the motions here, just sort of potentially forced tracks. I mean, again, there is good use of storytelling, but apologies, I am saying this with a cold here. Great use of storytelling, but for me, these two tracks are low points. It is that stripped back again version of Joe, but it was just missing that something. I feel like they were very middle of the road for the type of music that they are. The next track is It's Not My Place. First time I think I've heard Joe using finger-picked style guitar properly. I like this track when it picks up right at the end, when you just hear the snare drum right at the end, accompanying Joe with his just the guitar. Next track is Blockbuster Blues. I really like the drums at the start of this. It sounded like a sort of, definitely maybe Morning Glory style, Oasis era sort of style. Again, we're getting the pop punk rhythm style in the vocal melodies. Really fun track to just play loud. I really like that one. The next track is Like It Here. This sounds like it could be an accompaniment to the previous track, Blockbuster Blues. Same sort of style. Use of seventh chords with the band and the distorted guitars once again. Again, I think the guitars could possibly be higher up in the mix. That's just to my personal preference, especially if it's trying to emulate that sort of style. At this point in the album, you do start to hear Joe's style when it comes to vocal melody, especially. You know, you're not going to get Sinatra here. It sort of hangs in that balance of between spoken word almost and singing. But it's funny as it is in Joe's native accent too. And finally, the closing track on this, My Own Company. I really liked this finishing track. Again, the stripped back version to sort of end the album on Joe being Joe. I really like the lyric. I don't want to be a guy throwing up my medicine. I thought that was quite a good lyric. Oh, minging, bloody cold. And that's the track listing. Overall, you know, the production wears its heart on its sleeve. And it is good in context of what this is. Joe's vocals, you know, like I said, you're not getting Sinatra on this thing. But he does sing in his Lancaster accent, which I really like. It's a sort of, if you like Arctic Monkeys with Alex Turner singing in his native accent, then I can see why you would quite like Joe's singing style. There is a clear progression from his earlier work. I prefer this LP when Joe's not going through the motions and when he is with his band, you know, pushing that boundary, having fun really. This LP does bridge together three clear styles for me of pop punk, indie folk and folk rock. It is a unique sound in its own right in that regard. It does bridge those together. I did enjoy the majority of this album, and I really do look forward to work from Joe in the future. This is a great direction to go in. I gave this album overall a grade B. This has been my first review. That was Joe McCorriston, The Party We Came For. All links to the music in the description below. Thank you very much.